Hey, Fabled Falcon, can you hear me? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing not. Let me see. OBS. It's not. Desktop audio. Mic. It says it's capturing. Can you guys hear me? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing not. Uh, testing. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. But my speaker's turned up. Now I hear clicking. Your mic is super quiet. How about now? Still super quiet? Testing. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. ABC. No? You can hear the keyboard. Okay. Can you hear my voice? Oh, much better. Okay. Well, yeah, because it's a boom mic, and so it was hanging away from me. So I just forgot to bring it down close. So okay, so I think, and you guys should be able to see the test pattern, right? A little quiet, but you're hearable. Huh. Okay, let me see if I can boost that. Let me see if I can boost that. Is that louder? Ah, there's a delay. Okay. Am I louder now? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I have separate inputs in OBS, and I crank the microphone as high as it'll go. So I think that's as good as I can make it on my end. But thank you both for tuning in and helping me get this kicked off. It would take. Okay, good. It takes a certain kind of moron to schedule something like this for the first time on Super Bowl Sunday, but that would be me. Special kind of moron. So doubly thanks for tuning in. I think we have all the pieces in place from the technical side. I mean, you can hear me. I can see a chat. You can see a picture. So, I mean, we're 6 minutes early, so I'll wait. I'll wait until the advertised time before I kick things off properly. But in the meantime, if there's questions or things you want to ask or say, knock yourself out. Yeah. I think I prefer baseball over football too, but I'm not really much of a sports guy. I'd much rather play a sport than watch a sport. So, back in the day, same baseball's my game too. Yeah, back in the day, volleyball was my thing, right? Because growing up on the beaches of San Diego, we played a lot of volleyball, so that was fun. I was much more nimble back then. Not very nimble now. I'd make a good net, is what I'd make. Uh oh. Potential rivalry here. Guards fan. Is Guards a minor league team? I guess I could look. No, it's an MLB team. Guardians. Astros. Okay. Yeah, I live in Mariners land, so Guardians used to be. They changed the name. Okay. Yeah, Indians is probably not respectful. Yep. Yes. Yeah, my girls are real big into the whole Jinx thing, and then um when I was a kid, it was Jinx, and then that was it. And now they have this whole thing that they recite to lock in the Jinx, and I can't remember it. It's crazy. It's like, man, being a kid is complex enough. You had to remember all that crap too. So yeah, this 5 second lag between what you hear and the chat, that's kind of disconcerting. Kicking your Mariners out of the playoffs and then promptly losing. Well, I'd have to say that pretty much anything that happens to the Mariners is largely self-inflicted. And since I am pretty keen on the area I live in, but I'm not real keen on sports. I'm certainly not going to take that to heart. The last time I got excited about a Northwest sports team was the last time the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl, and when they decided not to run the ball for the 1 yard to win the game, I said, "Oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm done." So I'd much rather play my computer games and be geeky nerdy. For one thing, it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. So, and it's more relaxing. 2 minutes until we can kick this puppy off. This will be an interesting thing from my end, simply because, I needed to figure out how to get all this technical stuff up and running like this. Uh, Browns fans feel the same. A lot of silly choices. Yes, yes. Yeah. But not only am I doing something new and setting up the physical or the technical side of it, there's something new in that basically now there's a no enter zone in our house. And my family's got to get used to that. So we'll see how well that works. Because, it's the middle of a Sunday, so people are mobile, running around doing stuff. And this is also the day they typically vacuum, so I hope that doesn't happen. I took one kid to her tutoring job, and then this will end and I'll go pick her up. So that helps lessen the likelihood of a unauthorized vacuuming during this thing, but we'll see. My wife's the biggest risk because she doesn't even pay attention to signs on the door. So we'll see how that goes. But since you two are here, you two are especially important because, we've already been discussing some stuff that we would like to see in the future. And I might as well bring that up now. So I need to set it up so that it doesn't take up the whole screen. So I can see the chat still. So I live and die by OneNote. I was a founding member of the OneNote team. So yeah, I live and die by OneNote. But I took the stuff that we talked about in the chats, and I've learned from watching others that live streams expect. Oh, good. Well, perfect. Perfect. Because life's too short to get too worked up about just about anything. I mean, if your house is on fire or maybe going to be on fire, you can get worked up. But for stuff that's supposed to be fun, well, let's not get worked up. But this is some of the stuff that you guys had talked about in the chats, and so I added that. And I think this is a really, really good start. And so I'll just start babbling about some of this stuff and adding to the list. And if you have ideas, if you have more ideas, or this kicks off something new, by all means, throw it out in the chat. But right off the bat, when we're talking about general mod stuff, I think it might be worthwhile to also talk a little bit about mCreator, right? And not just talk about it, but like open it up and see how it works and what you can do with it. It is pretty powerful, but I also know that people or mods that were created with mCreator have a pretty bad reputation, and I don't think it's really the fault of mCreator per se, but rather, mCreator has, mCreator is really a valuable tool in that it really lowers the barrier of entry for people who want a mod, right? It really makes it easy, which means you do have a lot of mCreator stuff made by people who probably shouldn't be making mods in the first place. And that's probably where most of that negative reputation comes from. But I've seen some really great mods made with mCreator, and I've played around with it enough to know that there is a well, as far as I can tell, there's not much you can't do with it. It just depends on how much time you're willing to spend learning it. And so I think that would be a valuable thing to go over. I think it was Falcon that mentioned, I've never seen it before. Okay. Yeah. It's so, everything I just said, I knew, but I just didn't really want to take the time to learn it. But when I was setting up these mod packs, the first step is you have all these mods that other people made, but they don't necessarily play well together. And so the first step to trying to make everybody play well is, start making your own data packs. And data packs, all you need is a text editor, right? And you're good to go. But the data packs can only get you, like, say, halfway or 3/4 of the way. If you're trying to do something like create a profession, create a block, create stuff like that, data packs aren't going to be enough. And that's when I kind of dipped my toe into the mCreator pool to see what I can do with it and how easy it would be to learn. And it is a complex piece of equipment or software, but it seems to be pretty powerful. And like I said, I've seen some mods that admit to being mCreator mods, like I think Burrowers is one, right? So they basically have created a completely new NPC race that are essentially villagers that live underground. But there's a lot of complex behaviors and stuff in there that was all made on mCreator, and that's pretty cool, right? And that's the type of thing I would want to code in or whatever. And truth be told, it doesn't really require a lot of coding experience, though coding experience does help. So mCreator's up there. That's a good one. Another tool I think that would be worthwhile is Blockbench. And I was working on Modpack before my life went. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So in a similar vein here, I think Blockbench is a useful thing to examine together, right? Because Blockbench, I've been putting one together, but realizing they don't all play nice. Yeah, and it gets worse, right? Because as the number of mods grows, the number of interconnections grows too, and so you might have multiple mods that play in the same space, but they don't play nice, but they play in different ways, and so it's real hard to get them all in line quickly and easily. And, quite frankly, to that point, when I was putting together these mods, before I took the jump into mCreator, there's two mods that I was using together. One was custom villager trades, and the other one's custom villager professions, or something like that. And the profession ones, you could create a new profession, and the villager trade, you could customize your trades. Now, I had some problems getting those to work well together, and when I jumped into M Creator, I found out that it was a complete breeze to add new professions. So I dropped the mod that gave me custom professions, but I still use the mod for custom trades. And the reason is because through M Creator, I can't blow away the vanilla trades, and I can using the mod. And with M Creator at the moment, and there's lots of mods that have the same items that you want them to accept each other's items. Yeah. And so with the custom trades one, you can blow away the vanilla trades, which is one thing that I want. But another thing you can do is it gives me the ability to do things like potions. Now, the tricky thing is if you go into the underlying code, the JSON files and all that stuff, if you're talking about something like, say, a loaf of bread, that's easy. That's just an item. It has a namespace, Minecraft, and then has a name, bread. Easy peasy. But when it comes to things like potions, no, they didn't do it that way. It's actually like there's one item, which is a Minecraft potion, and then there's a whole bunch of tags and stuff that go around it that define that particular potion as, the difference between, say, water breathing and strength. And so doing a straight trade in M Creator in that case, it might be possible, but I don't know how. I have had a really hard time untangling it. But the mod actually lets me do that. And I think I talked about this in one of my community posts where they enable it, but the way they enable it is I have to essentially define a custom potion. So I can define a potion that is essentially the same as a water breathing potion, except that just says custom potion, and it looks the same as all the other custom potions. So you have to hover over it to see what the effect is. Now, that's not optimal, but it gets me going for now, and I'll work on it. I think where I would want to take it is to actually create, like I said, a standardized item that has namespace item name with the effects built into it, and that I can do in M Creator, and then I could add that to a trades list, no problem. And so you would have something that would have its own texture, its own name, be clearly defined, and you're good to go. So, but that takes time, and that's down the list. As you know, I'm doing whole bunches of different things at the same time, a little here, a little there. So that's part of the fun, though. So anyhow, but back to Blockbench, you can define the physical shape of things. So like if you remember, I made a cash register, and that's how I did it, right? I defined the shape in Blockbench, and in Blockbench I was able to define the textures, and then it's going, right? That's fascinating. Yeah. And so this is exactly the type of space where I think this type of conversation can happen, right? Because, you see me play the games, and I can play the games here, but I think what's more interesting here, in the live stream, is the fact that it's a two-way real-time conversation, right? So I'm certainly no expert, right? There's people who've forgotten more than I will ever learn about this, but I'm growing in this space. I've actively learning. I have access to some resources, and I know there's other people who have same type of questions and concerns. So why not, take this time to do the two-way real-time conversation with a 5-second lag and figure this stuff out together, right? And I think there's a lot of value in that. But yeah, with the Blockbench, you can not only can you create custom 3D items with their own textures, but you can actually retexture standard items. So you can, like, if you don't like your cows the way they are, or you want to change them all from like brown to purple, you can open up Blockbench and define a new texture for your cows, and load that into your own texture pack, and off you're going, right? And there's all sorts of cool stuff with that. In fact, if you've seen my community posts, you've seen that I've come up with new textures for my villagers, and that's exactly how I did it, right? I would open up Blockbench, I would call up the villager, and then I would start painting a new texture on top of the one that's there. Now that I have enough textures that I've done, I actually apply my old textures, use those as a template, and then go from there. But like, I haven't posted this one yet, but let me show you something I've been working on. So let me also not take up the whole screen with this one. This is Blockbench, and let me load up Minecraft skin, create new model. And don't worry if I'm doing this fast, because, you know, we'll go through this in greater detail someday, but 32 by 32. So, you know that I'm working on, New Londinium, Gryphonhorse, and From the Rubble, right? There's 3 different worlds that I'm working on. And I actually want this. And, they're very different worlds, but in a lot of ways, the stuff I'm setting up is going to be the same for all 3. Like in the case of this one, there's essentially an alchemist type for each. So if I go into From the Rubble, and again, don't worry about keeping up with this for now. We'll chemist. Uh-oh. Did it die? There we go. Confirm. People are chatting. What is it saying? That is not what I wanted. Not by a long shot. Let me do this again. Minecraft skin, create new model, job edition, custom assets, chemist. Oh, there we go. So this is the model, right? So this is a texture that goes on top of the existing texture for the villager. So I left it open for the face, but otherwise I gave him like a white lab smock with rubber gloves and one of those, hoods. And then, turn the brim off. Or don't select the brim, deselect it. Anyway, and then I gave him some goggles, hearing protection. But this is, I still have to integrate it, but this is what I was working on. This is the type of stuff you can do. Let's see. There was another mod I wanted to possibly see if you would be useful for you. It was called something along the lines of MC Life. Oh, MCA Reborn? Yeah, MCA Reborn is what you're talking about. Minecraft, whatever, to make life things. So MCA Reborn, and that's kind of on a similar line as Mine Colonies. And I do find both of those interesting. So we added Mine Colonies. Let's see. MCA Reborn. Making other mobs more like horses. Yeah, so in MCA Reborn, so it kind of redefines villagers, right? So villagers look more realistic, but villagers are actually like full-blown role-playing characters. They have like all sorts of traits, personality traits as well, and stuff like that. And when 2 characters get together and have a baby, then it's kind of like the natural biological process where some of those traits will be inherited from the mom and some of them will be inherited from the dad, and including the looks. Now, if you run that, you are one of the characters, right? So when you set up your character in that game, or that with that mod running, you're going to find traits for yourself as well. And so then it kind of gets into shades of Stardew Valley, where you can make friends with these same villagers, and you can have relationships, and you can get married and have kids, and then these kids reflect you and whoever you hooked up with. So it is really interesting. And yeah, that's the type of stuff I would not mind looking at. I think where we're leaning here is we're more leaning along the lines of, let's not play the game, but let's figure out how it works and what you can do with it and explore, you know, the value of the game, and especially if it's something that you've already been working on, you kind of like banged your head against some stubborn points. Yeah, no problem. Sitting with you and brainstorming and figuring out how stuff works. In fact, I know you guys have been watching my Let's Play series, and the Let's Play is, in fact, Let's Play. But I have a series called Mod Deep Dives, and those are actually my most successful series by far. But I think the reason they're so successful, and in fact the reason that I kicked off that series in the first place, is that as awesome as the Minecraft mod scene is, the documentation for Minecraft mods, as a general rule, is pretty horrible. It's bad. I mean, it actually kind of ranges. Bad is toward the upper end. The lower end is non-existent, right? So, and that's where I started with those videos, is because I was trying to build these mod packs. I was trying to make them big and complex and interesting. And I find these mods listed, and I look at the description page. If I was lucky, it gave me a fair idea of what was involved. Sometimes it didn't do that. And yeah, and so eventually, after looking around, the only way around this blockage was to just load up the mod and see what it does. In fact, let me show you this. So these are my mod packs, right? This is my Curse Forge thing, and you can see here, that's as small as I can make it. I actually built specialized profiles. Like, this is my sandbox mod, so it's bare bones. I mean, I have I have stuff in there to control my camera for camera angles, and I have a bunch of performance mods in there. But for the most part, this thing, it loads up really fast and clean. So I only bring in the mods that I want to experiment with or see how they work together. And so that's what this is. That's why I call it the sandbox, right? It's completely for experimentation. I mean, here's my 3 main Let's Plays. And essentially, I just started a fabric sandbox because all of this is Forge. But fabric has always been an interesting animal for me because with fabric, it's actually designed to be... yes, my production values have gone way up. Yes. Well, I mean, I hope so, right? Practice makes perfect, but or practice makes better, at least. But that's part of the fun. But yeah, getting back to fabric. So one of the mods, not even a mod, it's a resource pack that I want to do. In fact, it's one I'm writing a script for right now, is called Hyper-Realistic Skies. Now, I did a mod deep dive a little while ago, a few months ago, on dramatic skies. And if you haven't seen that video, I recommend you go take a watch at it. Well, the video's a video, but the resource pack is awesome because you disable all the shader pack sky stuff, and you disable all the vanilla sky pack stuff. And then you basically let this resource pack generate your skies for you. And they are beautiful. They're beautiful. Now, you don't get moving clouds and stuff, but you can get things like a moving aurora borealis, beautiful star fields, and more. Right now, in that one, probably the only thing I don't like about that particular one is every time it rains, whether it's a thunderstorm or just a gentle shower, there is a tornado on the horizon, right? It's kind of a Wizard of Oz vibe in Kansas. And I don't particularly like that. I mean, I don't mind that if it was always during thunderstorms, but it's over every rain. And I don't like that. Now, getting back to the fabric, the reason I got involved with the fabric is because there's a person who makes a similar resource pack called Hyper-Realistic Skies. And they saw my Dramatic Skies video and they said, hey, I'm really interested. Could you make a video for hyper realistic skies? And I said, well, let me take a look at your resource packet and I'll let you know. And I love the resource pack. I even love it more than Dramatic Skies. So that's the resource pack I use right now, right? But there's some wonkiness there, and it's not their fault, right? Let's be clear. It's not their fault because they designed the resource pack specifically to be used with the Fabric Skybox mod, which basically lets you define a custom skybox in Fabric. Now that's where they do their testing. Everything is geared for Fabric. And I'm in Forge. And so the way I make it work is there's a fork of the Fabric Skybox mod that is Forge Skybox. This is very cleverly named. And it works. But I think I know that there's some places where the forked version, or maybe it's just because it's running on Forge, kind of tweaks things. So, for example, when you run it under Fabric, not sure if it's a true understanding, but Fabric seems to be more. I'll get to that in a second. So in the Fabric Skybox, using the hyper realistic skies, when it rains, you don't see anything special except the rain, and then when the rain goes away, it generates a rainbow for a while, and the rainbow's stunning. It's just stunning. But when you run the same resource pack using the Forge skyboxes, the rainbow is actually there all through the rainstorm, and it remains shortly for a while afterwards. And that's kind of goofy, right? Now, recently, because I just finished my first mod deep dive in a while, that was Villager Recruits, I said, hey, I'm gonna start working on your stuff now, but because everything's so wonky in Forge, and I don't normally work in Fabric, I'm going to set up a profile just for Fabric and make your stuff work. And I did. And oh my God, in Fabric, it is gorgeous. It's beautiful. The colors are so vibrant. And I'm like, oh, for the love of Pete. Because the reason I'm in Forge is because Forge and Fabric both have lots of stuff available. And there's many, many mods you can find on both. But there's many, many mods you can find on one or the other, and the balance is shifted toward Forge. So I stay in Forge because that is where most of the stuff I want is found. Now, talking about the difference between Forge and Fabric, here's the thing, right? Forge is older, more established, and generally has more stuff in the Forge camp. And I think a lot of that's just because it's been around longer, more entrenched. Fabric was spun up to basically be a much lighter and more performant launch platform. So the idea is Forge is pretty big and bulky, and there's a lot of infrastructure. It has, it doesn't really crazily slow down your system, but it can. Right? Especially when you get in the big mod packs like I have. And Fabric was designed to try to be as lightweight as possible so that the launch platform doesn't get into the way of what you're trying to do. So in theory, things run faster and smoother on Fabric. I don't know. That's just what I read, right? And you should be able to run bigger mod packs easier in Fabric. And again, that's the theory. I don't have anything to back that up. But it doesn't have all the stuff I want. So, but you know, the things looked so great with the hyper realistic skies in Fabric that I am somewhat tempted to see if I can make it work or what I can make work. So let me show you something else. This is just how geeky I am. So this is the spreadsheet I use to track mods for New Londinium. And basically what I do is there's a link to the mod in CurseForge, and I keep track of the actual version and when I installed it, right? And this is because this is how I lost Griffin Manor and Griffin Hall, is well, actually, this is how I lost Griffin Hall, is that I loaded updates and then I ran the game and everything fell apart, but it corrupted the world. So now I always make updates of my worlds at the end of every session, and I keep track of what mods I installed or updated and when, so that if I open it and everything goes to hell in a handbasket, I can go look at the last set of mods I've installed since then, back them out a version, and then try to figure out what's broken. This has been a lifesaver. And when it came time to making the jump from 119.2 to 120.1, I knew I wanted to do it, but I knew that at that time 1.20 had just come out, right? And if you looked at the number of mods I had, it was like 200 and some odd mods. How many of them were out in 120? I think it was like less than 5. So I had a version of the spreadsheet then, and I created a couple columns. And every time a new version of 120 came out, I would add a column for it, and then I would just go out and check, right? So, if there's a mod, say like Asticor carts, well, I knew it was available in 1.19.2, and then I had a column for each version of 1.20, and I kept track of which ones is available. And eventually it got to the point, oh, thanks. Eventually got to the point when I was going through here, and I found that there was like, out of 200 and some odd mods, maybe all of them but 15 were available in 1.20.1. And that's when I knew that it was 1.20.1 was where I would be headed, and that it was time, right? We were ready. But then if you watch that series, you can see that I did the experimentation, and it really did change the world in a way that I could have maybe made it work. But the amount of time and effort I would put into making it work would be actually, I think, much more than just starting over and getting to the same point again. So that's why I didn't do it. And I do this for each of my worlds. And this is the source information for, you saw the mod list on my web page, but it's not in the same format, which is why setting up that mod list on the web page needs to be much more human readable. And so it's kind of a pain in the butt to do this. Now, another thing about this, and I know you're interested in creating your mod pack. So I'll tell you this, in that you really do need to go through and figure out which mods are client, which ones are client and server, and which ones are server. Because when you want to run your mod pack on a server, this is incredibly important. If it's a client only mod, you don't want to run it on the server, right? That's just going to gum stuff up. If it's server only, obviously you want to run it on a server, but then you're going to want to make sure that you're actually going to have two sets of your mod pack, right? You're going to have the mod pack that's server and client and server, and that's what you run on the server. And you have a version of your mod pack that is client and client server, which people run on their machines. And between the two, you get that marriage of functionality and things will work. But if you just kind of do one size fits all and you install everything on the server and everything on the client, you are going to have one humongous mess. And a lot of stuff will crash and burn, and there will be not much rejoicing. So I'll just throw that out there. I learned that the hard way. So that's how I know about that one. And yeah, that's tricky. Now, what were we saying? I'm not sure if you understand, but brilliant production values. I thought somebody made a comment that I was going to get back to, but okay. Anyway, so that's quite a digression, but I think, and that's the type of discussion I would like to have here, right? Because, and it doesn't have to be Minecraft. I mean, we're here because I am 99.9% a Minecraft dude, and my content's Minecraft, and that's what you guys have spotted and shown interest in. So I have no problem being Minecraft, but please don't feel like that, there's a high wall and we can't pass that wall and talk about something like, Subnautica or whatever is interesting. Now, I mean, I will tell you, I'm not particularly interested in genres like first-person shooters and stuff anymore. I mean, I cut my teeth way back when on the original Quake, back when we had to physically carry our machines into the same place, and then we would build networks. I mean, and when I say build, I mean literally build. We had rolls of cable, and we had crimp connectors and tools and stuff, and we would make custom cables and set up our machines and run that way, right? I mean, this is, gosh, 93, 94, 95, somewhere in there. So, yeah, that's, I mean, I'm really old. So that's what we used to do in the age to get network computing. But there's that. So let's see what else. There's the MCA Reborn. Yeah, that's good. The Young series. Yeah, that's a good one. You know what? There's some technology ones. So like the Thermal series is actually one. Yeah, you remember? Okay. Yeah, you're old enough. You're on the tail end of that. The Thermal series, which is actually one that I put into my From the Rubble world. And so I've just barely scratched the surface on that one myself. So I'd love to explore that one. Some other ones I think might be interesting is immersive engineering. Yes. With your consoles when you were younger. So I remember, so I was a full-time employee at Microsoft when the Xbox came out, so we could get Xbox pretty cheap. And I remember that we did exactly that, right? I mean, playing Halo on the original Xbox, you could have 4 guys playing on one Xbox, but you could have multiple Xboxes connected together. And I don't remember what the limit was. I think it was 16, but you could, so you could have 4 guys in each Xbox, and we had multiple Xboxes throughout the house, and we networked them together, and that was fun. And you kind of miss out on the, yep, it was OG Xbox. Yeah. You kind of miss out on LAN parties because, we were on the internet now. Maybe, I mean, a lot of people run with, voice going and stuff, or maybe you don't, but there was something fun about, you get a great headshot or something off and you hear somebody yell from another room at the back of the house going, God bless it. And you're like, yep. 42, the answer, life, the universe, and everything. And she's 57. Well, your wife is in good company. I'm 57. Now I'll be 58 this year. So, yep. I kind of feel that sometimes when I wake up, especially if it's been a weather change. Fabled Falcon, you're the baby of the group. So Thermal series, immersive engineering, mechanism is an interesting one, I think. And, what else? You know what? I know almost nothing about Tinker's Construct. But I see a lot of people talking about back from the old days, so maybe there's something in that. I don't know. There's this is one that I'd be happy to talk about too because I'm scratching the surface on that in Greifenhorst. But if you've got something else you'd like to add to that list, by all means, let me know. Convenience mods, yeah. When it comes to convenience mods, I would have you. Tinker's is awesome. Yeah, a lot of people swear by it, so that's what you want to do. I don't know if I'm spelling their name right, but Cerulum is a mod developer, and what they've done is I think they've got to have like 30 or 40 mods out there, but all their mods are super, super tiny. Right? It just changes one thing. And the point of that is you can mix and match, right? So instead of here's like, Quark and you get a bunch of stuff, but then you have to spend 4 months going through the config file to basically turn on or turn off the stuff you're interested in. They basically say, well, just download the mod you want and then everything plays well together. So there's some really great stuff in there. For example, like the stack refill is one of the mods that I use of theirs, which is, I'm laying down cobblestone. I have a full stack and then I lay it all down. And as I put down the last cobblestone, Normally I would have an empty spot on the hotbar, but if I have another stack of cobblestone in my inventory, it'll automatically throw that into the now empty hotbar or the now empty hotspot, and I can just keep laying down cobblestone until I'm out. Or in the case of like tools, you're whacking on something with an axe or a pickaxe, and then it breaks. Well, boom! It puts if you have an extra in your inventory, you'll put the next one in automatically. So that's awesome. Was how you modified the time to be one. Okay. So let's talk about that one. So that one specifically is hourglass, right? But I'm going to use that to segue into serene seasons. Now, let's start with hourglass. When I first got into mod Minecraft, you had to manually install them, and I was yeah. Well, so to your point, RJ, when I first got into modded Minecraft, it was very short lived, right? So I only recently got back into it a couple years ago, but when I first got into it, it was like 8 years or so ago, and it was kind of similar to what you were saying, right? Plus, it was really pointy headed. I mean, it was really technical, and it was more trouble than it was worth to try to, get it all set up and get all the pieces working. So now the modern world, I think modded Minecraft is much more mature, and it's a lot easier. The barrier to entry is a lot lower. So I at this point, I really don't understand why not more people get into it. It's fun. Besides being more fun, it's not as hard to get into anymore. But going back to hourglass is the first one, right? That's where you change the time of your day. Now, in fact, let me show you the config file. So hold on a second. Config. Actually, not config. You go into save games and server config and hourglass server. So let me bring it over here. Oops. And if I start talking about something on screen and you can't see it, you need to let me know that you can't see it. So this is the config file I use for New Londinium. And basically, you can control the speed of the day, right? Or the night. In fact, they're separate settings. So you could set it up so that the night is 5 minutes. I want everything to be closer to a 24-hour analog. So the day and the night are the same time. But in this case, the default setting's 1, which is 10 minutes for day and 10 minutes for night. That's the standard vanilla Minecraft. And what I had to do is basically figure out that, okay, if 10 minutes is day and 10 minutes is night, it means 20 minutes is 24 hours. And then I got to divide it and come up with a dividend that then I could plug in here to make it equal 1 hour. I mean, that's how that worked, right? But, and you can have some other settings here that, including, how you can really mess up how you sleep or not sleep or all this other stuff. So that's all there. Now, that's how you do it. You got to do some math. So think about it. But from my experience, where I originally started with that is I was running this on the server, and I thought it would be cool to run it on the server. Since the server's running 24/7, I wanted to make it run 24/7 real time. So if you always sign on in the server at 5 in the afternoon, it will always be 5 in the afternoon in the game world. That's kind of cool, but you kind of get bored of always being in the same time of day every day. And it doesn't really work well at all single player because, for example, in New Londinium, I just recorded and posted episode 13. I'm 13 hours into this, right? So I'd be 13 hours into the first day, which it just doesn't make sense. For me, I found that a 1 hour day-night cycle is a great compromise. And so that's what I set up for. But the problem is, right, this is kind of the thing you have to run in with any of these mods, is that while I could set it up so the day and night happens in that time frame and spawning occurs and all Some things, specifically the phantom generation, are completely hosed by that. Because phantom generation, though in the documentation it's talking, you go 3 nights without sleeping and phantoms spawn, but that's not really technically how it works. It's so many ticks pass before you go to sleep that phantoms will start spawning. And the difference is for them, so many ticks would mean that if 20 minutes is a full day night cycle and they spawn after 3 vanilla day nights, well, the number of ticks you generated over that 3 hours before the phantom spawn, it's the same number of ticks that I'm going to go through going through 1 day night cycle, which means almost every single night phantom spawn. And that was my problem, right? And I do like having phantoms. I do like the idea of having to go to sleep every once in a while so that they don't spawn. But if I can't control that, then the only thing I could do is remove them, right? And that's what I did. And so that's with the hourglass. But you can experiment with that, and you can come up with some really interesting stuff. Now, hourglass is actually, Serene Seasons and hourglass are designed to work with each other. And Serene Seasons takes this whole realistic or customizable time concept and takes it one notch further, right? So with Serene Seasons, you actually can define a year. So let me show you the config for them. So in Serene Seasons, could you edit how many ticks it takes to spawn them in? Not through any vanilla method, and I was looking for a mod like that, and I couldn't find any for Forge that would let me define the number of ticks before they come in. I mean, I did find one that would kind of let me do it, but it really beefed them up and added a bunch of other stuff that I couldn't turn off. So it's like, well, that doesn't get me where I want to be either. So, and this is kind of like the reason I get into all this is because exactly that, right? Yeah, me too. Once you start getting into modded Minecraft, right? Depending on how picky you are, and obviously I'm kind of a picky, obsessive person, you're going to find that there's going to be times where you really want something to work a certain way. Yeah, and you really want something to work a certain way, and nobody who makes content out there has given you an offering that'll do it in the way you want. And at some point, you're going to feel compelled to just do it yourself, and that's me, right? That's how I got here. But and that's why you really learn to appreciate these mods that don't say, "Here it is, live with it," or rather they say, "Here it is, but here's a config file of all these things you can tweak, turn on, turn off." Those people, oh, I love them. But that's a lot of extra effort and work on their part, and it's also a lot of complications for me because they all do it in different ways and they don't necessarily work well together. But after a while, that kind of becomes part of the fun. But Serene Seasons is basically, it sets up, there's a 12-month year, but I can define how many days are in a month, right? And you can even define which season you start in and all this stuff. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff here, like whether it changes the foliage color and whether it changes, whether snow starts falling where it didn't fall before, stuff like this. But this is all great stuff. And the mod goes a step further with like the vanilla crops. They all now have seasons. So, for example, if you plant wheat in early spring, it'll start growing, but it takes a really, really long time to reach maturation because it's early spring, and wheat isn't really an early spring harvest. Now, they do have integrations with a lot of modded crops, but not all modded crops. So it gets kind of wacky. But these are things that you can set up in the configuration file or with tags so that they all work together. And that's part of the stuff that I'm going through now in my worlds to make everything work together the way you want. But you can also, this ties in with Hourglass, but the thing to remember is that when like a day's duration is 144,000 ticks, and there's the integration of hourglass isn't quite complete, right? So, in other words, in hourglass, I define a day as an hour, and that would be half of this. That'd be like 72,000. So you woke up, you're running around, and now it's night, and you could go to sleep if you choose to. 72,000 ticks. Well, you decide, yeah, I'm going to go to sleep. Now, as far as you and I are concerned, and Hourglass is concerned, you just ended the day, you started a new day. But you see, as far as Serene Seasons is concerned, you've only gone 72,000 ticks into the 144. So you'll actually do another day before it says, okay, now a full day of your year has gone by. And then it increments the counter. So when you have these two playing together, you can't keep track of the days like you would on a normal calendar. You know, I went to bed, it's the next day. You actually have to keep track of the number of hours you spent online, and that would actually give you the actual day of the year you're in. And that's kind of pointy headed, but I mean, that's still better than nothing. I think it still adds a lot and it's worthwhile. So that's why I have it in there. It adds a lot of fun. I will say too, with the Serene Seasons, they're sophisticated enough that they said, we have seasons, and different crops grow at different rates at different seasons. But what about crops that grow underground? Well, by default, there are configurations that you can grow crops underground, and as long as you have everything that the crop needs, which is essentially light and water, the crop will grow at its default rate. It no longer is hindered by Serene Seasons. So in those cases, like when you build underground bases like I do, you don't have to worry about the seasons, only if you grow stuff on the top. Also, they keep track of whether you are technically inside but under a transparent block, and that's important because then you could build a functioning greenhouse. You could grow stuff on the surface, and if it's outside, literally outside, it grows slow if it's the wrong season. But if it's in a greenhouse, right, built up of glass blocks, so it's transparent to the sky, you can actually have stuff grow like nobody's business. It's immune to the season lag. So that's pretty cool, right? And that's the type of level of detail that I really appreciate in mods, and I want to integrate into the worlds I have. So, did you have any questions? Any more questions about that? As underground, basically just inside. So if you, let me bring it back up. I think it's in this file, right? Dimension settings, melting settings. Nope, it's the other config file. So a lot of these mods will have a config file that's like a generic config file, and then they have one that's specifically for your saved game. That was the one for the saved game. Let me see. Serene Seasons. Oh, here we go. So I don't know which one of these it is. So here's the seasons one. Number of seasons, durations, 8. Now, this is not the one that I use in New Londinium. It's actually so cool. Some people's minds blow me away. I know, right? And I'll touch on that in a second. I'll get to some. Here we go. Underground fertility level. So maximum height level for out of season crops have fertility underground. So by default, it's set as 48. If you have to have something at level 48 or deeper before this effect goes into. Now, I usually set it for 62, right? What you're looking at is the default setting, but I set it for 62 because that's the surface. Okay, Falcon. Catch you later. Yeah, so talking about people's minds blow me away. So I've mentioned this in a few of my episodes, but I really think that the Mojang team is taking vanilla Minecraft the wrong direction, right? And what I mean by that is they're still trying to generate content. And I think that the Minecraft community would be better served by them changing direction and building out Minecraft as a platform, right? So we, like Fabled Falcon said, it's really amazing all these ideas that people come up with. And I think that is one of the reasons why Minecraft continues to be such a strong user base, is because of all the creativity and diversity we see out there in the modded community. And that's for a game that really is kind of sort of moddable as an afterthought, right? I mean, it's still, yeah, there's a lot of great mods out there, but a lot of them, they're kind of kludges, right? I mean, like there's a lot of vehicle mods. Most of the vehicle mods are basically retextured horses. They have, I'm driving a car. Well, I'm actually driving a horse that looks like a car. And what I'm saying is, I think the whole Minecraft space would be better served if somebody would build Minecraft into a platform that says, we're not going to tell you what animals you can have or what foods you can have. We're going to build this infrastructure so you can define those yourself, and then let the modded community go to town. So like the vehicles would be a perfect example, right? It would be great if they could build infrastructure within the vanilla game that makes it super easy to create modded vehicles in a quote unquote official way. And I say that because, that's where the excitement for Hytale comes from. I don't know if you've heard of Hytale, but Hytale is a game that is very Minecraft-like. But one of the things that caught my eye early on was when they said, when we create this game, it is going to be moddable from the get-go. And in fact, not only is it moddable from the get-go, when the game comes out, you are going to have access to all the world and item and character creation stuff that we use to make the game. And that blew my mind away, because I'm sitting there thinking, this is what I'm talking about, right? I mean, if you stop and think about it, what put Minecraft in the public eye was this crazy idea that they made a game that you are free to do whatever you want. And you can go get a bunch of material within the game and then put the material any way you want, kind of like a virtual Lego set. And that was revolutionary. And yet, what they've done over the years is they've tried to make it more and more game-like, right? They tried to put more limitations and rules, and this is how this works, and now we have a particular mob that works this way. And I think what they're doing is they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, because the value of Minecraft was this open world, virtual Lego kit. And now they're kind of saying, well, you got to do it this way and do that way. More of the mods is standard like World of Warcraft did, instead of trying to come up with new features. That's pretty much what I'm talking about, right? But they're not. I mean, we have this Pale Garden thing, and it's not my cup of tea. I do find it moderately interesting, but I think all that time that they spend in trying to come up with new biomes or something, give us a biome engine, right? Give us a biome engine so that I can plug in some numbers and create my own biomes on the fly. Give me a block engine where I can, throw in some stuff and I can define my own blocks, right? And if they did that, then they don't have to. All they need is they want people to keep buying Minecraft. Okay, well, I'm telling you that people probably aren't lining up to buy Minecraft because of the new Pale Garden. But if they built this system as a platform where you could do whatever you want with it, people would be lining up to buy access to that, right? And then other people would be generating content, and then people would be lining up to buy copies of Minecraft to get access to that modded content. I mean, that's really how it should work, and I'm baffled that they don't see it that way. So, and that is, of course, I think where things are headed overall, because it's not just games and Minecraft, right? I mean, I think media is headed that way. So I might have talked about it in the video. I don't remember, but up until, I mean, when I was a kid, when we were kids, right? Broadcast TV was it, right? And then VCRs came along, and then, but I mean, it was still, content was generated by the movies, Hollywood, and TV. But then eventually we had the internet, and you had these streaming services and stuff. And now people could watch from all these different places. And that was important, because when you had like three broadcast networks, 98% of people were watching TV and 98% were watching one of those three. But now that you had all these cable networks and streaming services, you're lucky to get 5 or 10% of the viewing market, right? Well, for probably, I don't know how many years, at least 10, maybe 15, Netflix had like the biggest share of eyeballs. Now, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's somewhere like 25% of every view hour watched in a given day belonged to Netflix. And, and what did Netflix have? Well, they had, these big TV series and movies, just like everything else. But only in the past couple of years, and I don't know the exact year, and I don't know the exact numbers. They should look at official. Yeah. The YouTube now has more view hours per day than Netflix. So that's saying that on a global basis, if somebody's watching a screen, most people watching a screen at any given moment are now watching YouTube. And while YouTube does have movies and TV series and stuff, and it does have a lot of highly produced professional content, YouTube is predominantly people like me, just some Joe Blow, who is passionate about something and they just post on it, right? And that is interesting, because just like in the game space, I think people want more freedom to do or play in the way they want to play. I think this gradual switch to the YouTube model, I think, is also true for what people want to watch. I think people just want to watch whatever they want to watch, right? And I to a certain extent, I agree with that, because I think, like, I watch more YouTube videos than I used to, and I watch less big budget movies and TV series than I used to, right? Because I'm finding that the stuff that I find on YouTube, it definitely won't cater to everyone on the planet, but the stuff I watch more closely relates to exactly what I'm interested in. And going back to the whole Minecraft thing, that's what I think they should be concentrating on, is letting people be able to tailor it to their liking, to do it their way, right? Why I've always had this problem with game designers trying to force people to play the game they want. Now, if we're talking about something like a side scroller, an arcade game, yeah, absolutely. But the games that are interesting to me now are things like the builders and the simulations and stuff. And I mean, one of the things that used to drive me nuts is, one of my favorite games is City Skylines, right? But it's been a while since I played. But one of the things that drove me nuts was, I think you had to have a population of like 3,500 people before you could build a farm. What? I mean, we've been building farms for 15,000 years. On YouTube versus Netflix. Yeah, they are. They're very different. But I think the way people view media is changing, which is why I think the balance is shifting toward YouTube. I don't think it's necessarily better or worse. I think it's just an acknowledgement that what people want and expect from media is changing. And Netflix is still very much big budget movies and series, while YouTube is kind of like more like the internet. Anything you possibly want's out there. And I think that's why people are gravitating toward that, because ultimately people want what they want. And people come in very different flavors, sizes, and interests. So I think it's easier to find the things that interest them most in YouTube. Yeah. than it is to find the stuff that maybe interests them in Netflix. And that's kind of funky because, that's going to set Hollywood on its ear. Now, I was watching a video today, and they had an attorney on there, and her thing is she's an attorney for creators, right? So, because this is an expanding space, and there's laws and stuff that are around it now, but laws are changing, and she's helping people with that. One of the things she's talking about is she came from traditional Hollywood, right? She used to be an attorney in the movies and TV space. And she says the nature of Hollywood is changing, and there's been massive layoffs. You have a lot of technical people, cinematographers, graphic designers, all these types of people who have been kind of kicked loose because the dynamics and the economics of traditional media have kind of been put on the ear. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, where in games and in traditional media, a movie now costs hundreds of millions of dollars. And there's no guarantee that people will play it or watch it, or that enough people will play or watch it, right? Which now kind of makes it much riskier for them as a business than it used to be. But in the YouTube space, you could generate content at a fraction of a percent of the cost, and maybe it takes off and maybe it doesn't. But the thing is, the failure isn't so expensive, right? And I don't think anybody should ever be afraid of failure, because that's how we learn. But if the cost of failure is $600 million, well, that does kind of change the equation a bit. But if the cost is, a bunch of hours of my time and, $15 or something, then whoop-a-dee-doo. Let's try it and see if it works. In fact, you've talked about that kind of important industry. You got to pivot to what people need. Yeah. And see, that is the trick. But the problem with industry is you first of all, when an industry is created from scratch, by definition, the people who created the industry, those people are thinking outside the box. They're innovators. They're creative. But then when an industry starts to get kind of established and matures, then the innovators get pushed out, and the people who take over are the money guys, right? And it becomes big business. And you've seen that in games, right? It used to be computer games were cutting edge. They were doing stuff that people didn't think you could do with a computer. Now, computer games is one of the big industries, and you have companies like Electronic Arts and stuff, and they approach this like a mathematical equation, right? And that's why you get a lot of the same games that look, feel, smell, and taste exactly like every other game, because it's all about making the money. They have a formula. They know it works. They're not going to really offer you innovation, because that may or may not work, and they might lose hundreds of $1,000,000. So they'll take with what they know works, and they'll just reskin it and maybe tweak it here and there, and that'll continue selling, and they're happy. Well, to your point, right? If they are going to play that game, at some point somebody is going to innovate, or at some point somebody's going to offer something that is different, and their little formula is going to fall apart. And if they're not nimble enough, they're not agile enough to kind of roll with the punch and adapt, they'll go bye-bye. But what's that going to be? Well, I think that's what we're seeing now, right? This whole idea of this YouTube shift. Now, that's where it's trending, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll go all the way. I mean, maybe these guys will figure out a better way. I mean, it could be, if you look at the streaming services like Disney's offering a lot of weird stuff on their service, right? Like a lot of the stuff that you would normally find in like the, like a Blu-ray or discs special features or something, they're adding in there too, because they're like, people want to watch it, sure, we'll put it in here. And so I think they kind of get it, but then again, they don't totally get it, because if 90% of the new Star Wars stuff that comes out is pretty bad, right? I mean, Mandalorian that saved Star Wars, in my opinion. But Jon Favreau's off doing, and it's not all Mandalorian, right? So they're still hit and miss. But I think they learned an important lesson, because Star Wars was taking a nosedive, and and they pulled it out. But I think to your point, right? You got to pivot to what people need or expect. And the trick there is not necessarily, not only is it hard to know what they need or expect, a lot of times they don't know what they need or expect. And that's where innovation is important, because people have to try different stuff. I mean, anything that's out there that's established now at one point wasn't out there and wasn't established. And somebody decided to try something. And probably in the beginning, people thought he was nuts and that it would never take off. And then here we are all these years later, maybe it's part of the culture. That's just how it goes. And if you were able to foresee and predict those types of things, you would be able to own the world, right? Because you would always be there at the ground level of every single thing. And though there are some people who can certainly afford a large chunk of the world, nobody's been able to predict things to that level. So, oh gosh, that's quite a tangent. But, so, I mean, this is a pretty good list. Is there something else that you're thinking about that would be good on this list? And, you know, even if you think of it after the live stream, we can add it. I mean, this is a dynamic thing. But, and I'm kind of hoping that, you know, I know you and Falcon are interested in this stuff, clearly. I think other people will be too. And when this, you know, obviously it's live stream, but when I make this available publicly after the fact, I hope people see, I hope they tune in and see what we're trying to do here, because I think this is interesting stuff. I think this is important. I think, as far as I know, there aren't other live streams doing this. And I think this is useful, right? I mean, one of the things about modded Minecraft specifically is all that diversity and stuff, but all that complexity. And I think there kind of needs to be a space, kind of like well, at work we call them office hours, right? So, you know, they have a tool at work. It's kind of a complex tool. It's a database tool. People have questions. So they basically set up time every week. At the same time, you tune into this MS Teams meeting, and the people who work on the tool are there, available, and you can ask questions. But, and, you know, get answers straight from the horse's mouth. And that's kind of, I think, what's missing in the Minecraft mod space. Not mod-wise, but I commented about it before. But yeah, so I was pretty sure there was a comment that was made that disappeared. Is there such thing as held comments in this community moderation? Let's see. Oh gosh, that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, because I'm wondering if, I think it would be cool if the members like Falk and I would be able to get in audio with you and banter while you live. So I was wondering about that, right? Like when it's just 2, 3, 4, or 5 of us, I think that would work great. But if this ever gets bigger, then it gets out of hand really fast. And then I think this could work. Like I could probably hook up the Discord and just start a call on Discord, right? And the way I have OBS set up right now, pretty much anything going on my computer, if it's on this screen or makes a noise, it's going to be captured in the live stream. So I think that would work. And maybe we'll do that. You know, Lord Twitch is another, I think it's Lord Twitch. He's in our Discord, and he's a mod pack maker. And I think he would probably like to be in this conversation too. This is right down his line. But yeah, maybe that might be something to think about. It would have to, of course, be on a day that they're not running the Super Bowl, but we'll see. We'll give this format another couple runs and see where it goes, and then start making adjustments. But yeah, I would think that would be interesting. You know, in a related idea, I thought what would be interesting is actually try to find 3 or 4 other content creators that are in the same niche and about the same size, and bring all of us into a live voice conversation and talk about it. I wouldn't do a big group. Yeah. And you make private audio channels. Yep. But yeah, I think having it would be interesting to have a few content creators talking and compare notes about like the challenges in their content, and not just from the YouTube side, but also just because we're talking about Minecraft, like on the Minecraft side, some of the things they learned about putting together mod packs and compatibility and tags. I mean, tags are the bane of my existence. And to your point, what was the name of that mod? You said there's like a compatibility mod. Oh, kicked off the wrong program. Hold on. I didn't mean to bring up DaVinci Resolve. So this one, Almost Unified. Okay, I don't have to bring this up anymore. There's a mod called Almost Unified. And the idea with that mod is to try to programmatically and automatically clean up the type of things we were talking about, right? So like, perfect example is in my Greifenhorst series, I have Gallosphere, and Gallosphere introduces silver ore. But I have Ice and Fire, and that introduces its own silver ore. And in all my worlds, I have basic Endors and basic Nether ores, and those introduce silver ore. So I've got 4 different types of silver ore producing 4 different types of silver. And yeah, I mean, realistically, silver should be silver, and so silver for any one of those mods should be silver for all those mods. Well, that's what the Almost Unified mod does, and it does a fairly good job of it. But there's still some finesse to it, and so that's the type of stuff that I'm working on when I'm not doing videos or anything else. But yeah, and going back to what I think about Mojang doing a platform. That type of stuff is something that they could really simplify for us. Oh, are you going to like Nova Scotia or someplace like that? Far east? Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. October's a long time. October's not necessarily the best time to arrive in Canada, but yeah, I hope you get up there. I really love Canada. The whole family loves Canada. In fact, we're just a couple hours from British Columbia, and we spend a lot of long weekends and midwinter breaks and stuff in Canada, exploring it. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, Nova Scotia. Yeah, never been to Nova Scotia. So the farthest east I've been in Canada was Saskatchewan, but the native side of my family, on the Métis side, they extend all the way back east to Manitoba, and I've got relatives, First Nations and Métis, extending from Manitoba to British Columbia, all through the west. But yeah. Well, good luck with that, and I think you'll like it. I think you'll like Canada. I mean, at one point. Well, it was about almost exactly 8 years ago. So do the math and figure out what was happening then. But we were really seriously considering immigrating to Canada. Obviously, we didn't. But, we like it there enough that, we were seriously considering it. Now, another place I've lived that I would be happy to live in again is the United Kingdom. For many of the same reasons, except that you can't drive there very easily. Not from here, at least. And one that I visited a bit, and I think I would also love to go to, would be Ireland. But, for all the same reasons that we didn't move to Canada, we won't move there. So, sorry, getting a little dry. Yeah, it's well, first of all, hopefully you liked it when you're up there. But the thing is it's important to put family back together, right? Be everybody be in the same place. Long distance relationships suck. There's I mean, you can put the best face on it, but in the end, long distance relationships suck. There's not really any advantage to them. So, and it's not why you're a family in the first place, right? Your family to be together. So, yeah, good luck getting back there, getting everybody reunited. But gosh, I'm trying to think of what else. Thermal series. Oh, there's a bunch of storage ones, right? So, trying to think of like sophisticated storage and refined storage. That's the one I was trying to think of. Yeah, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. And they have your kids, right? The kids are with them, because I think that's the part would hurt the most. Being away from my wife would be tough, but being away from my kids would kill. So, oh, actually, add that one too. And then, yep, just added it. Now, storage drawers is one I like. I've always have liked that one. Uh, but one of the things that was missing was some of these other storage solutions, these mods. It's not just here's an easy way or an organized way of storing your stuff, but then they give you an interface that makes it easier to find or use your stuff, and that was missing from storage drawers. But if you just look at the screen at the description, they tell you that up front. They say, look, this isn't an end-to-end storage solution, but rather this is the back end and meant to be used in conjunction with other mods, right? And one of the ones I'm really excited about, it's two of them actually. So on Greifenhorst, Ars Nouveau actually has a storage solution. Kids, it's Kansas, they're 20. Oh, well, the kids are grown up enough. I mean, they're in Canada, though. Yeah. Get everybody back together. But at least, I mean, it's hard when you got little kids. And mine aren't little anymore, but it's hard not to think of them that way. But anyway, yeah. So, like Ars Nouveau, it's kind of a convoluted system, right? And you have like this bookworm familiar that's going to have to run to all these different storage containers. And so if you have a very large storage system, you're going to have a lot of these familiars. And besides the fact that it's kind of a hassle to get that many familiars, I just think of the lag it's going to introduce on your system. It's going to be killer. But you see, combine that with storage drawers, well, all you have to do then is connect one of these familiars to, well, I love the condensing drawers. Yeah, I love them too. But yeah, all you have to do is connect the familiar to one of the drawer controllers. So now you can have this big ol' storage drawers network that might include hundreds of drawers. But as long as the bookworm is connected to that one controller, you can access hundreds of drawers as if they're all one drawer or one chest. And that's the beauty of storage drawers in combination with another system. Same thing with refined storage. So I added refined storage from the Rubble for exactly that same reason. It would give me a technical interface where I could tap into my storage drawers network, but still be able to see everything and access everything without running around and physically grabbing stuff from their individual drawers. Now, unfortunately, and partly by design, that's what I'm stuck with New Londinium, because New Londinium, it's just pure storage drawers. I don't have anything else. But if you think about it, right, what we're doing there is we're simulating a steampunk world. And in the steampunk world, we do have a lot of automation and stuff, but it's not like, push the button and everything just automatically happens, right? It's it's still very much a physical world. And I would imagine, like in a steampunk system, you would have exactly what I plan to build, which is you might have a gateway where you can drop stuff into the gateway and it sorts and puts stuff into its proper drawer. But if you want to go get specifically, like, say, deep slate, well, you're going to have to go physically to the drawer and pull the deep slate out. Sorting storage vault. Yeah. And in vanilla, right? They came up with some really incredibly clever redstone sorting and filtering and stuff. And I'm impressed and respect those people immensely. But see, then it's more of just an engineering problem, but it's not realistic for the world you're trying to build, right? So, just like the guy who built a working Nintendo out of redstone, and it took up it was 32 chunks by 32 chunks or some monster like that. But it worked, even had a display. But it could only update the screen 4 times per second or once every 4 seconds or some crazy number like that. But it worked. I love that stuff. I'm impressed with that stuff. But, and those costs. Yeah. And so my interest is really much more along the lines of being there, right? An immersive experience where I am in a living, breathing world, and I'm in that world, and I'm participating in that world. And that's one of the things that really, really drew me to modern Minecraft, because in vanilla Minecraft, you see it. There's some fantastic people out there building some fantastic stuff, but they'll say, oh, here I built this living room, and I'm going to build a chair out of some stair pieces and some signs. And what they have is something that looks pretty much like a chair, but you can't sit in it. It isn't a chair, right? It looks like one, but it isn't. And with modern Minecraft, a lot of times you have these chairs, and by golly, you can plop your butt right down in there, and it's a chair. That's above. So, that's the type of integration into the world that I really crave. And going back to Hightail, that's the type of thing that they're doing. So that's, and a related one, in the community posts, I posted a link to Cubic Odyssey. Now, all they have out there right now is a video. There's nothing else. Right? And they say it's coming out this year. I don't know when. But it looks like it's much more along the lines of like a cross between Minecraft and No Man's Sky. But it looks like there is stuff in the game that is fully functional, interactive, right? Because that was always the problem with Legos. It's like, oh, I could build a blimp in Lego. But it's and build out a Lego. It doesn't float. It doesn't fly. It doesn't do anything unless you pick it up and move it around. But in Minecraft, we have the potential for, oh, that reminds me. So it's one of the things I think is like, yeah. And so, is it Valkyrie Skies? And that would also include Clockwork. And what's the other one? I think Eureka. I don't know if you know those mods. But these, I've experimented with them in the past, and I stopped because they killed my machine, the performance on my machine. I might take another look at them now that I have a new machine. But Valkyrie Skies is basically, it takes, and maybe Valkyrie Skies isn't the base one. I mean, these three mods work together, but the idea is you take the create mod, but you apply a real world physics model to them. And so I've seen things like working land vehicles, that basically you can generate your rotational force on board your vehicle, and it starts spinning, shafts, and you can put tires on them, and they're not even tires, right? They're basically blocks with conveyor belts around the outside, but they work exactly like tires, right? I've even seen working tracked vehicles like that, like your beef with ships and blimps in Minecraft. That just yes, exactly, right? I mean, that's my pet peeve is when you're a kid, right? When we were little kids, or we had little kids, and you go to the playground and they have like the jungle gym there, and kids are climbing, but they'll say, "Hey, pretend this is a pirate ship." Okay. So we pretend it's a pirate. It's not really a pirate ship, but we're pretending it's a pirate ship. And the dirt around the pirate ship, we'll pretend that's water and it's full of sharks. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That's using your imagination. That's awesome. But you see, we live in this computer age. And so to have something similar where, like, I'm saying, hey, pretend this is a real chair. Hey, pretend that this is like a blimp in a computer game? No. We should be able to say, hey, I built a blimp and it flies like a blimp, and this is, or I built a ship, and now this ship can go from point A to point B in the water, which is what you expect ships to do. And that's what, and going back to what I was saying, this is why I think the Mojang should basically give us infrastructure that lets us support this type of thing. And that's why I was so excited about Vulcan Skies and Clockwork and Eureka, because, they have blocks in there that you can generate to essentially make airships and ocean-going vessels and working submarines and all this type of stuff. It's awesome. So I've seen guys who have built large airships, right? And if you have something like, say, sophisticated storage or sophisticated backpacks, you can have an onboard storage solution that is robust enough that your entire base now, your base, is actually in this floating airship flying around the world. So you no longer are tied to a single location. You fly to where the stuff is that you want to explore or extract or whatever. And then when you're done, get back in your blimp and go fly it to someplace else. That is awesome, with a capital A. Oh, all the letters are capitalized. It's awesome. That totally sparks the imagination in ways that, it's just amazing. So, yes. Now, this is one of the reasons why I've talked about in some of my episodes. Create is a technology mod, but I think it should be part. I know it will be a part of every single world I build, because there's even knowing you say, well, it's a technology mod, and really it is specifically targeted toward the steampunk type of industrialized era. But, you can create windmills and water mills, and those are things that we've had in the Middle Ages. And, so it applies in a very direct way across multiple genres, right? But one of the add-ons that I've now decided that I will always use is called Steam and Rails. And it's an add-on for Create specifically that adds a bunch of train-related stuff. Now, I have this even in Greifenhorst, and the question is, well, why do you have a train-related mod in Greifenhorst? Well, I have it because one of the things that they added, I just barely touched Create, and you said something. This is where I'm headed with it, invisible rails. So Steam and Rails mod, one of the things they introduced is a thing called Phantom Rails. Phantom Rails are awesome. Now, this is one of the reasons why I had problems with blocking phantoms, because using phantom membranes, you can create a specialized form of rail track, create rail track, that is called the phantom rail. Now, when you hold a piece of phantom rail in your hand, you can see the phantom rails in the world. You can interact with the phantom rails in the world. So you can build them, you can walk on them, you can do whatever. Now, when you switch to something else in your hand, those rails disappear. And they do more than disappear. They're not just invisible to your eyes. For all intents and purposes, they're not there anymore. So if you're standing on one and then you put something else in your hand, not only will you not see it, now you'll start sinking in the water or whatever. And this is the beauty, because they work still like rails. So you could set these rails up, and then you could create a train, and it will run on those rails even if you can't see them. But you see, if you have rails that you could run through water or through the air, but then essentially make them disappear so they're not really there, but you still have trains running on them, well, you can make that train look like anything you want. You can make that train look like an airship or an ocean-going ship or whatever, and it runs on a track and on a schedule and picks up and drops off stuff just like a regular Create train would. But now it could look like a ship or a flying shoe or a big banana. It doesn't matter. And this is why I'm so excited about that, because, for Greifenhorst, I can make a flying ship. I could even make a flying ship that goes sometimes in the water, and sometimes the tracks will take it up and over the land and land someplace else, right? I mean, how cool is that? And living, breathing world. It makes stops. You can jump on it. You could be carried with it. You can use it to carry cargo. I mean, really carry cargo. Not pretend that it's carrying cargo, but it really is carrying cargo. That is the stuff that's awesome. So rails work if they virtually aren't there for you. Yep, because they're not virtually there for the train. That's the trick, right? The context is for you, they're not there, but for the train, they're always there. And that's the beauty of it. So, and again, like Falco was saying, I'm amazed at the creativity and ideas that come out of the mod community. I never would have thought that in a million years. And now that somebody thought of it, like I said, I can't imagine running a mod pack that doesn't have that ability in there, because I can't think of a world where I wouldn't want to make that. In fact, one of my personal favorite creators, and somebody I'm really inspired by, is a guy called Imagineer Dave, right? And Imagineer Dave is out of the Netherlands, and he has an SMP that he's working with some other guys, and it's basically a made up about 1890s 1900 British railroad system, right? They've got a big stations and houses and roads, and it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I recommend you go take a look at his stuff. But they actually have working land vehicles, buses and trucks and stuff. And they don't use the phantom rails. What they do instead is they run regular rails, but they run them underneath the street surface. So what you see on the surface is what appears to be a bus or a truck rolling along, but it's actually a Create train that's running like 5 blocks below that. And this is the part that sticks up above the surface that you can get on and go and move around in. But that's what I'm talking about, right? Having that functionality available, you could use it in a myriad of different ways, not just with the Phantom Rails. I love the Phantom Rails though, because then I don't have to work so hard at hiding it, right? So the ideas of airships and stuff are now completely, because I can't hide it if it's moving through the air. But if I have Phantom Rails, I can hide it if it's moving through the air, and that's just really cool. So yeah, I mean, that is really cool. And this is what I'm talking about, right? When you start finding out about people that have content like this and the things they're doing, this is what's attracting me. So not only is this stuff that I'm more focused and interested in, this is now taking a bigger and bigger chunk of my viewing time, which is why I'm watching less and less of the series and the movies, which is why Netflix and these other guys are kind of freaking out, because they can never offer me anything like that would appeal to my particular sense like this and still be available or appealing to so many other people, right? It's impossible, because there's just not that many people that are like geeky the way I am. They have to deal with the lowest common denominator, something that'll appeal with like really wide sections of the population. But YouTube has essentially offered me the ability to really auger down and focus on very specific things that interest me And it's not just me; it's anybody else, right? If you, like I was telling somebody, if you're interested in collecting old cereal boxes from the 1950s, yeah, I've never met anyone like that, but I'm sure there is somebody like that. And what's more, I'm sure there's probably more than one. And it's probably almost impossible for them to find information or each other. But now on YouTube, second biggest search engine in the world, you could probably post a few videos, and probably within a few months, you're going to find each other and be able to build a community and grow. And I kind of think that's what we have here, right? What I'm shooting for is for a space for people to just kind of come in and geek out together. And I think the people who are attracted to my content are people who are kind of interested in playing in or building these interactive worlds. And right now I think Minecraft is probably one of the best tools for that. But I'm not going to draw a line in the sand and say I'm Minecraft only. If somebody comes up with a better tool, or even a similar tool, I'm perfectly happy playing there too. I think, I grew up, getting nitty gritty really scratches. And yes, well, I mean, so to a certain extent, I'm on the spectrum too, right? And so, digging in deep and really getting into those details and being able to tweak them, that's always been something that really appealed to me. And not everybody has to be excited about the creation of that stuff, because there are some people who are perfectly willing to let others build the worlds, and then they're thrilled to come in and explore those worlds, and right, so you kind of have a symbiotic relationship. I'm perfectly happy with that too. I mean, one of the things I want to do, and I might be able to do sooner rather than later, is now that we have the channel memberships, every time I release a video in one of my Let's Plays, what I'd like to do is also give you guys the updated Forge Curse profile and the save game and the journey map save, so that you could then, at the end of an episode, you can download these files on your own system. And if your system's beefy enough, you could set them up and run them on your system. And now you're in the world you were just watching on YouTube. And it's yours to do with what you want. I don't care. Just don't post videos on them. But, you can explore and see firsthand what I did and how I pieced it together and everything else. And then when I release another episode, then I'll update those files and you can go play in that one. Because I think that would be appeal to people, right? Like, there are going to be people, once this project gets going, I mean, we're doing this an hour at a time, so it's going to take a long time. But at some point, it'll be more than just one house to explore, right? I mean, I imagine at some point that New Londinium will actually be somewhere along the lines of where it should be. And I think it'll be a very interesting place to go into and experience firsthand, right? Better than the video, because the video, you see it from my point of view, and that's great. But sometimes what you really want to do is you don't want to be on the tour. You want to be off the tour so you can explore yourself, and check things out and poke your nose in every nook and cranny directly. And that's one of the things I hope to do with these channel memberships, right? And I hope people find value in that. But I think one of the limiting factors is modded Minecraft can be a real resource hog. And, I beefed up my computer considerably so that I could just run it and capture it in the videos. But I know a lot of people don't have the option or opportunity to run a new computer every 4 years or 5 years. And so some people really do have potatoes, and they might not be able to take full advantage of that. But it is what it is. Yeah, so actually that's one of the things on my to-do list. So I finished, and I'm going to post today a post about it, but I finished the actual official mod list. And the next thing on my to-do list is to clean up the interactive map. Now, at the moment, the interactive map is a world map. And I'm still experimenting with what they call an image map. So it lets you have a map and you can click in parts of the screen and different things happen based on what you clicked in. So I'm still experimenting with that, and I want to beef it out and stuff. But what I foresee, what I eventually want to build, is that for each of the different worlds, there's actually what they call a gazetteer, right? A gazetteer would essentially start with a world map, and then you could like move around the world map and click on places. And in places like, say, New Londinium, you would then be taken to another image map where now you could see the city streets laid out, right? Or multiple levels. So you can switch between levels, see the city streets. You can click on points of interest within the city, right? Now, that's a lot of work. I have no problem with that. But that's also a lot of time, which it's coming. Checks in the mail, and it will be in the mail for a very long time. But I think that will be, I think that that's going to be pretty fun and exciting. And along those lines too, like I said, there's going to be this idea where as we start to build permanent structures, and this is a living, breathing world, that means there's going to be living, breathing individuals tied to given structures or locations or roles. So essentially, I'll have official NPCs, and we'll set those people up, and I will have essentially the equivalent of, I'll get that in a second. I'll have the equivalent of a yellow pages and a white pages, right? So you can look people up. So if you're in Londinium and you're trying to get to, you want to find an armor, well, the website should make it fairly easy to find the armor. And maybe we'll set it up so that channel members will have an opportunity to sponsor, quote unquote, an NPC where they can name somebody, and that's like their persona in the world, right? So do I have plans to make the mod pack public? Well, so historically the answer was an emphatic no. Recently, the official answer is no, but the unofficial answer is maybe, because as I've been doing more and more work in MCM Creator and building up my data pack and stuff, I'm kind of thinking that it might be, I mean, it's definitely something I would like to share. I mean, I definitely want to. I've always wanted to. But CurseForge has a tendency to make things much more complicated and difficult than it needs to be. And yeah, I could release it through some other, like Modrent or something, but I would prefer to stick with where I actually live, which is CurseForge. So I've been thinking very seriously about exploring what it takes to make a public mod pack and to maintain it, and what my responsibilities are, and then make a call as to whether or not I'd be willing to do that. And, like I said, a year or so ago, I've always wanted to do it, but a year or so ago, what I would have been willing to do was pretty limited. And now what I'm willing and able to do is not quite so limited. So maybe the time has come to actually do that. And then, and there you go. Because I think I didn't realize people were looking at my list, and it just, I didn't think there would have been anybody interested, but there's people looking at the mod list and asking me questions and stuff. And so I'm thinking it might just be something that I should just do, and people can play with it directly. Mind colony templates. So I don't know about that, because that would be interesting, but then that is way more work than I have available right now. I mean, I could do something like that if I wasn't doing videos on the schedule that I'm doing and everything else. So, but yeah, I do find it interesting. Now, that being said, there are, if you do some look out there, there are quite a number of new Mind Colony templates out there, and some of them are kind of steampunky and very good steampunky. And there's actually one that's semi-underground too. So I think there's some stuff that is already out there that would be somewhat similar. And frankly, it's much better than anything I would be able to piece together in the near future, right? Because I wouldn't even know how to. I'd have to start from scratch and figuring out how to set up a pack, and working on it. So, yeah, I think I'll leave that probably to professionals. But in a related note, I would if and when I get to the point where I retire, so I don't have a day job, I would love to start a Mind Colonies series, because I think there's all sorts of opportunities there for some cool role play and joking around. And I think it would just be a lot of fun. I really do enjoy Mind Colonies, but that's a time sink. and right now I've got more than enough to keep me busy. So something to keep in mind. Anyhow, we're coming down to the last 15 minutes. So, but this, I would have to say, first of all, thank you for staying on the call and being interactive. I think that helps a lot rather than me talking to an empty room. Plus, you have helped steer me in directions that I probably wouldn't have thought to talk about. So I think your participation and Falcon's participation have made this much better than it would have been with being by myself. Yeah, we can put it on the back. So thank you for that. And I hope the next time around we have more. Now, when, probably the question would be, is when's the next one? I don't know. So I normally this time frame, every other week, I have an online meeting with some old high school friends. And so I'm thinking that we would probably, every other week would be the high school friends, every other week would be this. But that being said, the next week we'll be out of town, so I'm not meeting with my high school friends until the week after, which would be 2 weeks from this. So I don't know when the next one of these will be. However, I think so too. Thank you. So we'll see how this goes. Now, I'm also thinking of opening up some other days and times. So the other good one for me is Wednesday nights, right? So Wednesday night, probably like 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock Pacific time, PM. That one would work for me. And for now, I think those would be the two main times I would do something regularly. Now, I'm not, it's entirely possible that there might be unannounced live streams because I have time and I'll just do something random. And I'm also open to the idea of, I do know that quite a few people who watch my videos are actually in Europe. And so I might do something that is more aligned with European time. And it's okay because I sleep weird hours. Plus, with my job, my team that I work with is scattered between all 4 time zones in the United States, plus India, plus the Czech Republic, and there's a few more scattered throughout the rest of the world too. So I have weird meetings at weird times. I'm okay with that. I just don't know about setting up something on a more regular basis. But we'll see what the response is. If there's enough people who would be willing to watch something, say at like from 3 in the morning to 5 in the morning my time on a given day, I might do that. I work from home. At the moment, I work from home. So I do have some flexibility in nap time and stuff like that. So I could probably make it work. Wednesday night, good. And we'll see what Falcon says too. But I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about the whole thing, right? This, I got into this because I'm a creative person and I like doing stuff, and I think it's worth sharing. I think people find it interesting, and more importantly, I hope people find it inspiring. I hope that it kicks off, the creative juices in them. Lukey's not hurt. Yeah. We'll see, right? If because I kind of, this is where I'm getting at as far as like this as a community, because I'm doing stuff and I'm happy to share, but I'm also happy to have these discussions where it's not about me or what I want to do, but like what you guys want to know. Where you guys got questions, let's answer them. You guys have ideas, let's explore them. And I'm really kind of looking forward to the if they can get it ironed out, the YouTube communities where you guys can talk to each other. Because right now, in a post, I can make a post and you can comment on it, but that's it. And I think there's a lot of potential where you guys can reach out to each other, or anybody can just ask a question that's not in a comment to some tied post, but rather just, hey, how does this work? Or I've been thinking about why. Yeah. Yeah, at the moment, you two are the only ones. But I expect that to change. You guys have been very supportive as subscribers. So I'm thrilled that you guys join as members. I think as, we have sessions like this and stuff, I think more and more people will see the value of being a member of the community. And I think the channel membership will grow. But let's be realistic. This can never ever be a Mr. Beast type channel, nor would I expect to be anything on the same lines of like a Paul Soares Jr. or a Gemini Tay, right? Conservatively, I'd be happy to eventually hit 10,000 subscribers and be happy with like 100 people as channel members. And I think that's probably about as far as this niche and my content would ever be able to go. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I mean, that's fine. Now, if it went further, well, I wouldn't say that I'd be crying about it, right? That'd be fine. But I just think that, like what I was saying all along, is, I think the media landscape's shifting toward more tightly focused niches. And I think this is a pretty tightly focused niche. I don't think this will never have really true. Yeah. Well, I mean, they'll never have super broad appeal, but if I can get this thing to the point where it pays for the subscriptions I have, as far as like having access to like the music content I use and stuff like that. If it becomes self-sufficient, then I'd be happy. I know my wife would be a lot happier. And if it gets anything beyond that, well, then I'm ecstatic, right? I mean, in a perfect world, this takes off enough where I could do this full time. But like I said, I don't think that's realistic. But if I'm able to make $300 or $500 a month, well, hell, that's a lot as far as I'm concerned. That would be super, super fantastic. Over and above anything I could have imagined. And that'd be great, right? But we'll see how it goes. But I am looking forward to the journey. Like I said before, not on this call, but elsewhere, the destination is important. It's why you're going in the first place. But don't be in a rush to get to the destination, because the journey, in most cases, the journey has more to offer than the destination does. And I'd say that's true. I mean, so the channel's officially 2 years old last month, but I didn't post my first video until the end of February. So we're not really, I think their first video is where the actual birth of the channel is. So this hasn't been running for quite 2 years yet. And where I've been and what I've learned over those 2 years was fun and interesting, and beyond that, right? I think it opened up some paths for growth and introspection that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think I'm a better person for it. It has helped put me in contact with some interesting people I probably wouldn't have been in contact with before, and opened my eyes to some things that I wasn't aware of before. And, chalk all that up under the lines of personal growth and improvement. And I think that's important, because when you stop growing, you start dying. And unfortunately, I know a lot of people who start dying at very early ages, right? They know it all. They don't want to learn anymore. And yeah, it has been massive growth. So And but that's the fun of it, right? That's the fun of it. I mean, it's kind of like with the builder, being a builder. That's what it's all about for me. If you're a true builder, you'll see that you'll build something and it'll be pretty good, but then you realize that over the course of building it, that you could have done better through X, Y, and Z. So either you start over again with X, Y, and Z, or you tear down what you just built and build it again and again and again. And it gets better every time. And that's, that's what I'm talking about. This, the process of living life is the same way, right? You go through experiences in life, you learn things, and it makes you better prepared to do them again or in the future. And you iterate, right? And when you stop iterating, you stop adapting. When you stop adapting, well, you're on your way out, right? That as either an individual or as a species. And so you got to stay flexible. People who can't change, people who can't change their thinking, especially, they're just dooming themselves. And unfortunately, we live in a political climate right now where a lot of people are rooted in a past that never really happened, right? They talk about the good old days or, the way it was. Well, elements of what they remember was true, but there was a lot of other stuff that they've conveniently forgotten that made the good old days kind of bad. And, so trying to turn the clock back, it's not going to happen. What's more is the world is a different place. So if people are yearning for the 1950s United States, well, first of all, that wasn't a great place to be if you were a person of color or LGBTQ or a woman or not rich, right? But if you're trying to turn the clock back to whatever romanticized version of that you have, well, also don't forget, we don't have a Cold War. We don't have, we're not the only major developed country that's still industrialized, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I know you are. And I'm sorry that we're taking a step backwards, right? Because I think we're almost out of time and this isn't quite what I want to talk about, but I will say that I think we've made a lot of great advances culturally in tolerance and acceptance. But you see, and as a result, a lot of people came out or identified. Now they're out in the open. And now we're taking a step backwards. And folks like you are kind of like out in the open with crosshairs on you. And I think that's unfortunate because, one, that's not right. Two, I also think it sends the wrong message because I think there are people who never did come out or are never identified and they're staying hidden now. And because of the way things are, they may always stay hidden. They may feel like there's never a good time to come out. And that is a tragedy because when people are not able to really be themselves, I'm a big proponent of diversity. The diversification of ideas and points of view and context is what makes us stronger. I mean, it's how we were able to produce an atomic bomb when the Germans and Japanese couldn't because they got rid of everyone that had a different point of view. And all the different points of view we had helped us approach a problem from different ways that actually led to success. So, this idea of trying to knock out anybody who thinks differently or looks different or whatever, I think it's to our detriment and it's going to hold us back, especially at a time when there are a lot of other economies that are competing against us and they're not holding, they're not tying one hand behind their back. They're actually accepting the diversity and fully utilizing it. So I hope things get better. I hope for the sake of people like you that it gets better. I mean, this is not the country or the world that I wanted to grow up in, and it's certainly not the world I would have imagined that I would hand my kids. And I've apologized to them time again. It's not me personally, but certainly my generation and the generation before that have kind of sent us spiraling in the wrong direction. So. I am hopeful, though, that I look at my kids and how they are and how they interact with other people and how they embrace diversity. I am hopeful that their generations and generations that come after that will be better at all this stuff. And yeah. And yes, to get back on track, I'm really excited that you're excited, because I'm excited. I've been excited all along, but this is the thing. It was kind of like yelling out into the void. I wasn't sure anybody else was even watching, much less that they're liking, and God forbid, be excited. And the fact that you guys are here, that you're willing to join a channel membership, tells me that there are similarly minded people out there who enjoy this stuff and appreciate what I'm doing. And that's the truly exciting thing to me. So if we can get this thing off the ground, if we could start attracting more people, I think it's going to be, yeah. And you know what? I'm glad you're here at the beginning too, because I think it's important. It's important to be at the beginning because not just for the pride in being able to say, I remember when, but I think it's also important to be here at the beginning because, you can take an active voice early and help shape that community, right? I mean, it is my channel and my world, but I think you can see that I'm very much, there's the stuff that I do and it's all mine, but this side of it is very much the community. And the more people we have in here and the more active they are, I think that's where the real value on this side of it's going to come from. And I'm excited to see that because, see, at that point, it's not, I'm generating content that you guys find value, but this community side is we are generating content that all of us find value in. And that's excited because for me, I'm no longer just a provider. I'm also a consumer. So this is good stuff. And I hope it's something that is sustainable and able to go on for many, many years because this is what I plan to do for the rest of my life. I'm pretty excited about that. So anyway, we're past time. Thank you for being here, RJ, and for Falcon. I know you're offline, but thank you for joining. And for those of us who are watching after the fact, I'd really love to see you in here next time, participating, and it'll be great. So thank you, everyone, and I'll catch you next time. But until then, as I always say, I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. Cheers.